Good morning, reflectors.
Good morning.
Welcome to Morning Intentions. Today is Friday, Reflection Friday, October 24th. Thank you for joining us today and this week. Let's reflect on all that we talked about, particularly the never-ending, never-enough cycle.
And the exhaustion as a badge of honor. How did you do with our curiosity question yesterday? It was, do you wear exhaustion as a badge of honor?
I would say I don't, but I'm wondering if you've heard me say anything like that, because I think the wonderful thing about having a buddy on your personal development journey with you is that they can recognize your blind spots. So I would say, from my own perspective, I don't think I wear exhaustion as a badge of honor.
I would say that's true about you. It's not true about me.
You wear exhaustion as a badge of honor?
Well, I don't, externally, I don't say to people oh, I'm so exhausted because I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. I don't say that.
Well, what do you say internally?
I do that.
Really? Okay, so tell me more. If you're not doing this externally, this would obviously be something I don't know. So what do you tell yourself that gives you the idea or confirms to you that you do in fact wear exhaustion as a badge of honor?
Just last weekend. Okay, remember I was sharing that I did some landscaping?
Yes.
Well, I really wanted to do this landscaping over my weekend. And I always have so much packed into my weekends.
Okay, I've heard a little bit of it.
Okay, right? And I wanted to do the landscaping and I needed to do my finances. Because of our discussion this week, I see, looking back, what I said to myself is, I want to do the landscaping. I need to do my finances. I'm going to get up really early on Saturday so that I can do my finances and do my landscaping. And I remember having this conversation with myself. Probably going to be pretty tired, but I was just watching someone on the news who is 84 years old and he just keeps on going, so I should too. That's literally what I said to myself.
Okay, so hold on.
So that's a comparison, isn't it?
Yes, I was going to say we have some new evidence in the courtroom here, because just yesterday, you said, I don't compare.
Yes.
And I've never heard that much out loud in my life. In my lifetime, you've never been a keeping up with the Joneses, grass is always greener on the other side kind of person. Not at all. But maybe that's not true.
I did. Because I heard this person. I looked them up online and I said, oh my goodness, they're 84 years old. And I thought, well, if I'm 64 and they're 84, I can get my buns out of bed and get my finances done before the sun comes up so I can go to the chickens and walk Molly and I can get to my landscaping. That's what I did.
So let's see. Let's check in with our never enough cycle. So we have moving the finish line. That's confirmed. We actually have comparison as fuel.
Yes.
Confirmed.
We do, don't we?
And actually, I would say kind of self-criticism masquerading as motivation. Confirmed. Because if I don't get my buns out of bed like this 84-year-old, well, then I'm just being lazy.
Yes.
We got that. Then achievement without fulfillment. We had that confirmed yesterday.
So maybe I have the whole thing too, just like you, all 5 of them.
I wonder if we'll hear external. Oh, you did. Well, that was confirmed. I was by your VIPs.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
You got all 5.
I got all 5 too. Okay, so this exhaustion is a badge of honor. Remember yesterday at the end of the podcast too, I want us to talk about the inner critic, which would fit into, I'm kind of being critical of myself when I say,
yes,
well, if the 84-year-old can do it, I should be able to do it. I wanted to talk about the inner critic because this is a common experience for us with that never enough cycle. That inner critic, it's very much related to, in my mind at least, where we have these coping strategies in life that we've learned really young. When we are judging ourselves, when we're shaming ourselves, when we're trying to avoid rejection or embarrassment or failure, we really did learn most of that when we were kids. Like, we wanted to please our parents. We wanted to not get in trouble at school. We wanted the teacher to say, hey, you're doing such a wonderful job. I mean, so much of that inner critic, even I was thinking about this too, when I shared the other day about when I write something that I might go back and say, well, how could I make this better? That is an inner critic in a very
subtle way.
I was trying to say in a way that seems gentle and maybe like, oh yes, how could you do it better? But really, there's something inside of me that is saying, you could do that better.
Yeah,
I don't voice it that way.
What you've written isn't good enough.
There is a part of me that must think what I have written, obviously, right? What I have written is not good enough. I don't shame myself outwardly or even inwardly saying, oh, you're such a bad writer. Let's do it again. Like, I've never talked to myself like that. But there's something in me that says, let's try it again. Let's try it again. So it's like a nice, motivating inner critic. But yet it leads to all of these never enough cycle components.
I think the subtler inner critics are more difficult than the more overt. It's easier to recognize and build awareness around whether it's an external critic or the inner one when it's like, you dummy, and it's just very harsh and direct, and it's like a big boom, and you can feel it.
Right.
You can, if you're calling yourself names, it's easy to recognize. But when it's more covert and more subtle and more sinister, and it's done in a gentle tone, that just makes you question yourself.
So, okay, so let's just real time this. When you say sinister, I immediately have a reaction inside that says, no, I'm never sinister. I'm never sinister. But then the subtlety there would be, well, then why do you keep thinking that you have to write things 50 times?
Yeah, because it's destructive to you. You can't just write something and say, good enough, or I've accomplished my goal. There's always this little thing in you that chips away at self-esteem, at self-confidence, at self-worth, that says, no, you need to write better to be worth something. You need to write better, or you need to redo this. There's just this little thing, and then what happens is it just chips away at us. It chips away at who we are, because that idea of we're not good enough, we're never enough.
That's the hustling for our worth, hustling for our success.
Right. If someone else was talking to us the way that we talk to ourselves, we would say that is sinister. That manipulation, that the put downs, we would say that's sinister. That's mean. That's cruel. But
what I'm trying to point out is there's a method to my madness here.
There is. Okay.
I see myself, and I know I'm not the only one, where it's easy for me to say, well, I don't talk to myself in a mean way. I don't say sinister things. I don't have what I would consider negative self-talk. I just tell myself, I think you could do better. Let's try again. But that's the same thing is what I'm trying to say.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to say too. We're on this exact same page, because the thing that's in me, that has been in me for years, that says, well, you've been sitting all day. You really should do a workout. It sounds nice on the surface. Anyone can get behind that. Yeah, you've been sitting all day. You sit a lot at work. It'd be good to move your body. Of course, we can look at health statistics and personal training textbooks and say, yeah, that's actually that's a good thing to do. But the way it's done within me is if you don't do a workout after sitting all day, there's actually something wrong with you.
You're failing in some way.
I'm failing in some way. If you do what's actually good for you, like go to bed at a reasonable time, you actually aren't doing enough. So that subtle, cunning inner critic, it is sinister. And, we don't have to demonize ourselves or beat up on ourselves if we have that going on. Again, so much of what we do here on Morning Intentions is we want to build awareness because these habits and these behaviors hide in the darkness. When they're unconscious, we just do them. We don't question them. We don't think about them. And the way it stays unconscious is it's out of our awareness. So we bring things up here on Morning Intentions so then we could all say, well, do I do that to myself? Do I talk to myself with that tone or with that idea? Oh boy, I do. Okay, well, I don't want to do that. That's not being kind to myself. That's not treating myself with respect. What could I do instead? How could I treat myself with the kindness and the respect I know I'm worthy of?
I'm glad you're pointing this out, Ada. Some of this stuff is so subtle that when we first start our personal development work, we just get what's on the surface. We don't go deep enough to say, where am I bringing this into my life in even a subtle way? But even if it's in a subtle way, it's going to affect our nervous system because we're always going to be like, okay, I'm not working hard enough. Oh, what I'm writing isn't good enough. Oh, I better keep going until I get it the way I want it to be or the way I think it should be. And then our nervous system is affected by this too because it's always pushing us. It's always pushing us. That's that wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor is really hard on our nervous systems. When you think of, well, then, we can't sleep in. Okay, my example is I can't really sleep in because, well, if this 84-year-old can do it, I can do it. Well, maybe the 84 doesn't need the sleep, then I do. Maybe they nap all afternoon. I don't know. But I'm just comparing myself to what I'm seeing on the surface. But our nervous system has to keep going then. Our nervous system has to keep, okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. And then we're exhausted. And the exhaustion then will either affect us physically because we'll get burned out, emotionally because we won't be able to show up for ourselves and for others the way we would really like, and mentally we don't think as clearly when we're always pushing ourselves forward. So understanding the subtleties of how this shows up, because we all know the overt way, but then the subtle ways take a while to recognize. Just like I didn't even think I thought maybe I had 1 in 5. I didn't know I had all 5.
And not only when we're wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor, are we harmful to ourselves, we may not be able to control our emotions and our tempers as well with others.
Most definitely.
We may be driving tired and we could cause an accident. So while we're hustling for our worth, we could do something so destructive that then we're in jail for a decade or more because we hurt someone, we killed somebody. And
oh
then
my
where's our
goodness,
worth
you're
there?
taking this to a rule.
Well, it's true. These are all the things we need to think about. We're also being very hard on our health.
Yes.
I know when I don't get enough sleep and I get really tired, I can have really bad migraine headaches. I know that's not good for me. We also then consume more sugar and caffeine.
Yes, that's a definite.
In order to make up for our lack of sleep. Those drinks aren't healthy at all. They're not good for us, but we do it because we're hustling for our worth. There's these, like the subtle ways that things show up, but then also it causes a lot of harm with other people. So I don't try to take things dark. Maybe my mind goes there a little more naturally, but that becomes, to me, this powerful motivator of, well, if I am hustling for my worth, it's self-destructive in the end. It may work for a year. It may work for 5 years. It may work for 10 years. But Annette, you and I see the aftermath of hustling for our worth after decades.
Well, and I think we both have lived it too. I mean,
We both have lived it, sure.
So I think maybe that's why we both can recognize it.
It's in people's eyes.
It is. I think we mentioned that early last week, is you can see this in people's eyes and the way they hold their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really
just defeated.
It's really important. So next week, we're going to concentrate on living beyond the hustle. That's what we've themed next week, is living beyond the hustle. And that means we're going to talk about how do we reclaim balance? How do we redefine success? And how do we build a life that's more worth-centered, understanding our worth as opposed to getting our validation from external sources. So I do want us all, though, I don't want to leave on a down note, but I do want us all to think about this weekend. If we are hustling for our worth, if we're wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor, how much is this costing us? How much is it costing us emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, which you and I didn't even touch on? But there is a cost to this. It's important to get clear about this. How much is it costing us? And then next week, as we talk about ways to live beyond the hustle, we'll be more motivated to make some changes in our lives.
So our intention for today and for this weekend is a reflection question. How much is hustling for my worth and wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor costing me in my life? How much is hustling for my worth and wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor costing me in my life? Thank you so much for joining us today and this week. We'll be back on Monday, but until then, remember, our day is better because you are part of our day. See you Monday.
See you then.
I'm wanting something more, and I'm ready to begin. A life of happiness awaits me. It starts today when